welcome to Through Lucy's Lens weekly videos where I go somewhere interesting and hopefully you will find them interesting too. So, starting in a different place than usual, I'm actually having my lunch. I'm here at the Black Country Museum and I've treated myself to some chips. So, I'm in the Workers' Institute here at the Black Country Museum, and today I want to tell you about a group of women who have inspired me for an awfully long time, and I've just been waiting for the right time to tell you their story. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the women Chainmakers of the Black Country, why they inspired me, what they did, and their fascinating stories. So I'm going to eat my chips and then I'm going to get into the video. So let's go. Today, I want to take a step back in time with you and have a look at a remarkable chapter of working class history from the Black Country. This all took place in the early 20th century, and you might not know about it. At the heart of this story is a woman called Mary Macarthur, an absolute powerhouse of a woman when it came to fighting for workers' rights. And alongside the story of Mary, I want to tell you about the female chainmakers of the Black Country, who were some of the unsung heroes of the time. Their story is one of struggle, resilience, and eventual triumph. For some context, the Black Country, if you don't already know, is an industrial hotspot right in the heart of the West Midlands. This was the birthplace of heavy industries like coal mining and ironworks, and the nickname the Black Country comes from the soot and grime that coated the area from all the coal-fired factories. It also could be named after the black seam of coal that runs through the area. One of the industries in the area was chain making, and this was centred around an area called Cradley Heath. These chains were used in ships, mining and other heavy industries, and were also exported cheaply across the British Empire. Chain making was hard, demanding work, but the industry relied heavily on women, especially in the smaller workshops. Women would even work in backyard chain workshops. These women were skilled, they were skilled workers, but they were treated unfairly, paid next to nothing for gruelling 12-hour shifts, and worked in dangerous, unsafe conditions. Chainmakers were part of a group of workers working in so-called sweated trades. Long hours of toil for poverty wages carried out in unsanitary, often dangerous conditions. Sweated labour was widespread in factories, offices, shops and laundries, and even on farms and at sea, and in the building of roads, railways and canals. Author Robert Harborough Sherard visited Cradley Heath to collect evidence for one of the series of articles published in 1898 on sweated trades. He was taken by a James Smith, secretary of the Chainmakers Union, to a place called Anvil Yard in Cradley Heath. He wrote, "Two of the girls working in the shed were suckling babes and could work but slowly. Those who could work at their best, being encumbered, could make 100 weight of chain in 2.5 days. Their owner walked around serene and grey-haired among them, checking in on conversations and being at some time abusive. Of Anvil Yard, with its open sewers and filth and shame, one would rather not write, nor of the haggard tatterdemalions." Tatterdemalion was a word used for a ragged person or a pauper. Mary Macarthur was born in 1880 in Scotland, and from an early age she had a keen interest in social issues, particularly the rights of women. By the early 1900s, she was already well known for her work as a social reformer and an advocate for women in the workplace. In 1906, she helped create the National Federation of Women Workers, and this is where she began to make real waves in the fight for women's rights in the workforce. Mary was particularly drawn to the situation of the female chain makers here in the Black Country. She knew that they earned barely enough to survive and were working in absolutely dreadful conditions. In a lot of cases, they were also working in their own homes, isolated and cut off from any sense of collective action or support. At the Black Country Museum, they've set up an office for Mary in the Cradley Heath Workers' Institute. Mary saw that there was potential for change and felt compelled to help. The problem wasn't just the long hours or the low wages, it was that the women weren't even recognised for the skilled work they were doing. They were often treated as second-class workers and paid a fraction of what their male counterparts earned for the same kind of work. So in 1910, Mary Macarthur visited the Black Country to meet with the women. She helped them organise and brought them together to form a union, the Chainmakers Federation. Their main demand? Well, a minimum wage that would reflect the tough, skilled work they were doing. In the summer of 1910, the women went on strike. Over 800 women in the Black Country stood together and refused to accept the terrible pay and conditions any longer. It was a bold move, especially for women at that time, but they were absolutely determined, and Mary Macarthur backed them all the way. Many of the female chainmakers at the time were paid as little as 5 shillings per week. This equated to around 25 pence. They were fighting for a minimum living wage of 11 shillings per week. Not a vast increase, but enough to make their lives more comfortable to reflect the hard work that they did. The strike was tough and lasted 10 weeks. The women faced immense pressure, with employers doing everything they could to break the strike, but the women held firm. They were supported by trade unions, the press, and by the people, who saw what they were fighting for. Some of the people that donated to the strike included George Cadbury, Joseph Chamberlain, and even members of the aristocracy. £4,000 of donations were received, and that's the equivalent of around £600,000 today. Mary was really successful in using the new media, particularly the cinema, and over 1 million people watched a Pathé newsreel about the women's plight and subsequent fight. The money collected for the strike was used to pay the striking women a salary, and on the 27th of August, over 300 women chainmakers, all union members, met to receive their first week's strike pay of 25 pence each. Those carrying babies were paid first, but it was soon noted that the same babies were being brought forward by different women, neighbours having taken to lending each other their children to jump the queue. As the strike fund grew, the amount paid to union members increased to 30 pence per week, and it also became possible to also pay non-union members 20 pence. But Mary Macarthur's work didn't stop after the strike. She went on to continue her fight for women's rights in the workplace, fighting for equal pay, better working conditions, and the recognition that women were just as capable and deserving as men when it came to skilled work. Mary Macarthur's efforts really have shaped the way that women are treated in the workforce even today. The legacy of Mary Macarthur and the female chainmakers is still felt today in the area. At that time, the women of the Black Country, with her help, proved that when workers, no matter what their gender, stand together, they can change the world. The legacy of the Chainmakers strike is celebrated with a monument in Mary Macarthur Park, and an annual Women Chainmakers Festival still takes place annually in the area, usually in about June, where thousands of people gather together to celebrate the achievements and history of the workers of the Black Country. Now, you know I like to throw in a little extra in my videos, and just up the road from Cradley Heath is the town of Netherton. And this town has a little known but spectacular connection to the R.M.S Titanic. Now, I was one of those kids who was Titanic mad, and honestly, I still am. So I was really excited to see this here in Netherton. And it's a full-size replica of the Anchor from the R.M.S Titanic. The original Anchor was made right here at Noah Hingley & Sons Ironworks, and on the 1st of May 1911, the Anchor began its journey, pulled on a haulage cart by dray horses towards Belfast. At the time, it was the largest anchor in the world, and thousands of people turned out to watch the spectacle. Also in Netherton is a very interesting good old-fashioned boozer or pub. This is the Old Swan in Netherton, and it's also known locally as Mar Pardo's. It has a rich history, with the building dating back to the 1860s, and a pub on this site has been here since at least 1835. It's known for its on-site brewed real ale and its long-term lady Doris Pardo, who was the landlady of the pub from 1932 right until 1984. It has a unique enamelled panel ceiling, and it really is like going back in time without stepping foot in a museum. According to CAMRA, the Campaign for Real Ale, this pub has been licensed since 1835, and the current pub and brewery were built in 1863. The front bar is unaltered since Victorian times, apart from the fact that the bright red paint is unlikely to be authentic. They say it's one of the most distinctive public bars in the whole of the UK. And if you're visiting the area, it's absolutely worth popping in for a pint or a meal to really soak up a real Black Country community establishment. As always, thank you so much for coming with me on my journey into the past this week. I'm always so happy to have you travel with me. So please do drop me a like on this video and join the amazing community of social history lovers in the comments. If you can take a moment to subscribe, it's really appreciated. I have nearly 100 videos to catch up on now, and your support really helps not just my channel, but my confidence grow. It's an absolute pleasure to share my passion for history with you. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Goodbye.